Okay, so let me just preface this video as a lie. We're not going to be doing this for free because I already have all of the supplies that I need for it in my house, in my home. So it's free for me, but if you feel called and inspired to try this yourself, it might not be free for you if you have to go out and buy you some stuff. But the general idea of me doing it for myself is that it's free. So the other lie, there's two lies. So the other lie is that I feel like if you put DIY in the title of something, it kind of insinuates that you know what you're doing and that you have like a plan and like possibly even did this before. I have none of those things. I sort of have a plan, but I haven't done this before and I have no idea if it's going to work out. So I'm just going to take you along for the adventure, and we're going to find out if it's a good idea and if you should do it yourself. So yeah, let's go ahead and burn some printer ink. So the stuff that you are going to need, one, you're going to need your regular basic home printer. I have, an HP printer that prints color fine. It prints color in black and white, and it's for documents mostly. I don't know, it's like a home printer, okay, is what I'm going to be using for this. And obviously, like I already know, it doesn't print the best quality, so that's why we're going to overcompensate for the fact that the quality of the printing is going to be really bad by using some other accessories. Okay, so you're going to need some good old Mod Podge. So you're going to be Am I stupid? Am I stupid? My entire life I thought it was Mod Podge. It's not, it's Mod Podge. I've never read this before. You know what? Whatever. You're gonna need some of this. And I think, I don't know how much you're gonna need because I haven't done it yet. We're gonna find out. You can watch the whole thing through and then be like, girl, you could have just got a print with the amount of money that you spent on the Mod Podge. So I don't know, but right now I've got some of it on hand. So we're gonna do that. And then we need acrylic paints. These are just like Dollar General type brands, I think. A couple of them might be from Michael's, but just some that I had on hand that I'm going to be using possibly to do a little touch up if we need it. The last thing that you need is a frame, and I have a big old frame that I got from a yard sale. They were closing down the yard sale, so they were just trying to get rid of everything. They weren't even selling it. I got it for free. It's a great big giant free frame. So I got that. I really think that you could probably do this as like a frameless project, like more so like, I don't know, the canvas mount look versus it being in a frame, but I have a frame, so I'm gonna use the frame. It was free. So we're gonna use that, and that's what we're gonna do. So let's just let's just go ahead. Let's see how this goes. I got my hair myself today, so I'm feeling crazy. I'll do anything. The first stop we're going to make is www.nga.gov/artwork-search, which is the website of the National Gallery of Art. If you aren't familiar, then you need to get familiar, because the National Gallery of Art's website is a fantastic place to source free downloadable wall art, even if you're sending it to a printer or you're getting it, printed at Walmart or Walgreens or whatever, your option might be. Even if you're not doing this project, the NGA website is a great one to check out with a ton of free downloadable, beautiful art that you can kind of take your pick from. At the top right of the page, you can select image download available, and that's going to filter your search, obviously, by, entries that have a download available. And then you can search using all kinds of filters like time frame, nationality of the artist, medium, art movement, just about anything you can think of. You can filter all of the artwork and, make sure that you find some things that you love. What I will say in hindsight is that the images that are going to work best for this particular project are originally painted in oils and are non-realistic. So think like impressionist landscapes and that kind of thing. I already have an idea of what I want, which is an oversized early American folk portrait. My plan is to frame it and put it at the top of my landing, so if someone looks up the stairs in the dark, it will at least temporarily make them think a ghost is standing up there watching them. That's the vibe I went for. I ended up settling for this unattributed portrait labeled Girl with a Toy Rooster. It has the vibe I'm going for, and it also kind of reminds me of how my daughter stands there staring at me when I don't get up quickly enough to get her whatever she wants. Loved it. Still love it. I will say that all of the blank space on it, on the background, the uniform color on the background did make it easier to see like seams in the paper and wrinkles and that kind of thing, but it's a sacrifice I was willing to make. So just kind of keep that in mind. Now that I've gone ahead and chosen the image, I'm going to convert it to a PDF. When you download it, it's a JPEG, obviously, and I need it in PDF form to print. So the easiest and freest way I found to do this is to just go on the Adobe website, which has a free online file converter, and you can find it pretty easily by just searching Adobe JPEG to PDF in whatever search engine floats your boat. But from there, we're going to open up the image in Adobe from your computer, so not in the web browser, but like from the desktop, if that makes sense. I don't know what I'm talking about, okay? I don't know computer stuff. But to print oversized, you hit print, and then you'll see under the page size and handling header, you'll hit poster. And then on the right-hand side, the print previews, it's going to give you an idea of how the image will be printed across multiple pages. You can see up here, it gives you the total number of pages plus the dimensions of the entire image, including the white space. Mess around with the size by changing the tile scale under the page size and handling header. Goodness, I wish I could talk. Those dimensions that they're giving you in inches there do include the white space, so I just kind of eyeballed it to make sure it would fit in the frame as good as possible, like once all the white space was cut off. Each of the tiles represents like a regular 8.5 by 11 page, so you can kind of eyeball it. I set my overlap to 0.1 inches, which just means there's 1/10 of an inch of overlap in the printed image between each page. And I did this because I'm not good at cutting things out, and I thought I'd have a better time overlapping the pages a little versus cutting the image on each page perfectly. But I do think in hindsight it would be easier to set the overlap to 0 and just be better at cutting things out. Once I had the tile scale adjusted to where I felt like that final image was close enough to the size of my frame, I went ahead and printed it out. It was 9 total pages. It went totally fine. However, I do want to take this opportunity to complain. Since when did you need a subscription for every dang thing in this world? I have a freaking subscription for my ink and my home printer, which is fine, I guess, in theory. But the other day I was panic printing something the morning of a school meeting for one of my kids, and I had let the ink subscription expire because it was made under a debit card that had gotten replaced. And when I tell you that my printer, which I bought and paid for, that still had full ink cartridges that I had also bought and paid for, would not let me print anything until I updated the information for my ink subscription. I was so annoyed. Get out of here with that foolishness, HP. So anyway, I got all my pages all printed and let the ink dry before I cut off the white edges and matched everything up. It was all good. Since I had that overlap, I was just able to glue everything together like that. Again, I think printing it with no overlap and just gluing it down like puzzle pieces onto your cardboard backing would probably end up being easier. I don't know. I can't tell you if that's a good idea. I can just tell you what I did was probably a worse idea. So I was really counting on the Mod Podge to do the heavy lifting for this project, and I knew I'd be putting down a lot of coats. So right off the bat, I will say you might feel a little panicky when you see how the printer ink kind of lifts and looks like it's bleeding when you start putting Mod Podge down, but just trust the process because it really ends up okay. I put down a layer on my cardboard backing, glued the print down, and then put a thin layer over the top of the print and let it all dry. And then once it was done drying, it was really the fun part. I wanted the print to have a hand-painted look, so I had a really good time just doing like 5 consecutive layers of Mod Podge until I ran out of it. And I just did big old lumpy brush strokes with it to give it that oil-painted texture that I was looking for. And guess what? It was a lot of fun. Once I was done with all my layers of Mod Podge, probably a couple days worth with all the drying, I went in with my acrylic paints and I mixed a few colors that I thought would kind of go with the painting, like the background of the painting and some of the edges where I had white space. I mixed it up and then I mixed some Mod Podge with it. And I just touched it up a little bit and I kind of broke up the background and like where the seams are in the picture by just doing a few little brush strokes with the acrylic and Mod Podge mix. And I think it worked really well for this particular painting just because it had that really big uniform space as the background that made the seams of the painting super obvious, or like the seams of the printing super obvious. So I think it did help a lot, just like adding some kind of blotching and semi-matching colors in the, across the painting background and kind of on her clothes a little bit. I think I made a few little touches here and there. And then I let that dry, and then I did the final Mod Podge coat. So I don't even know. There's probably like 7 or 8 on there. There was like basically like a jar and a half. I used all the Mod Podge that I had left in my house. Okay, so what's the final verdict? It works pretty well. This landing is already kind of dim, so you don't need to have like a perfectly done print up here. It's definitely dim enough in here to hide some flaws. I think it's ghosty enough. I think it's giving the ghosty ambiance that I would want people to see if they look up the stairs into my landing. So I'm pretty happy about that. Overall, if I were to go somewhere like Walmart or Walgreens or somewhere that prints on demand, like oversized pieces of artwork or photos, I believe I priced it at around $26 for a print of this size. So I saved $26 by printing it on my little HP printer that I already had. Of course, it did use some ink from that printer, but it was actually pretty minimal, surprisingly, for like the saturation that it printed in. But it really didn't put too much of a hit on the ink cartridge. And then, of course, if you don't have Mod Podge on hand, that's gonna, run you a couple bucks too. I think that's like $3 something a jar. So I guess it just depends on how adventurous you're feeling. I don't know. It's a thing and I did it, and you can do it too. Let me know if you do it. I would love to hear about it. Also bear in mind, if you don't want to do oversized artwork, you can get a very cool effect by just printing an 8.5 by 11 and putting it in a frame of that size and doing the Mod Podge covering on it as well. I did test that out. I didn't film it, but I tested that out, and it does make like very nice 8 by 10 prints with kind of like a texture to them as though they've been oil painted. So that's worth trying too, I think, especially if you want a smaller piece of artwork. But yeah, I guess that's kind of all, folks. Let me know what you would try. Let me know what you would do. I don't know, am I cheap? Let me know if I'm cheap. Tell me in the comments. I guess I'll be back when I have some more tomfoolery to try.